Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from Denver right now, Josh Lander, joined as always by my guy who's on the East Coast, Nate Weitzer. And we are kicking off this work week on Monday night's big NBA slate, looking at a bunch of our best bets. As always, make sure you check out that playpicks.com article from Nate. Right now, we're going to jump into the Knicks taking on the Philadelphia 76ers in Philly. Second leg of a back-to-back for those Knickerbockers. And we'll jump into all of those things for you, Knicks and Philly. But as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we're about to jump into. Nate, let's get into it.
Monday night ball night, I think. And I don't think anybody's going to be watching the Steelers and Bears aside from those hometown fans. So we got some great games in the association, including the Sixers, who are minus 4.5 at home against those Knicks. The total right now, 211.5. The other games on the slate include Minnesota +6 at Memphis, the Nets +1.5 at the Bulls. We'll have a separate video up about that one. Pelicans +9 at Mavs, the Heat -2 at Nuggets, and the Hawks +3 at Warriors, Suns -2 at Kings, and then the Hornets on a back-to-back +1.5 at those sputtering Lakers. The Sixers kind of have a big brother thing going with those Knicks, right? Where they have won 16 straight when favored. That trend kind of snapped though, right? A couple weeks ago, the Knicks won in New York when they were favored. The line closed at Knicks -1. It opened with them as underdogs. So I think you can say they kind of snapped that streak, got over the hump against Embiid and Philly. And look, if Philly is without Tobias Harris, Matisse Thybulle, and possibly without Danny Green too tonight, I don't think they can stop this Knicks team. I mean, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and company should be able to get their points. Embiid can't be everywhere at once to try to stop them. And, I mean, the Knicks are still number 2 in offensive rating on the road. They've sputtered a bit lately, including a bad loss to Cleveland last night. But everybody seems to be losing to Cleveland when they're looking ahead on their schedule. I think this is a great opportunity to zig when everybody zags. If you dig deeper into the numbers, sure, the Knicks are on a really bad rest disadvantage here. Third game in 4 nights. They're going to a third different city. But in that situation, right, they thrive under Tom Thibodeau. For some reason, they go 7-1 against the spread on 0 days rest since last season. And they're 16-7 against the spread on the road in that span. So, I mean, I think if you just look at going against the grain here by saying, oh, the Knicks have struggled, the Sixers have won 6 straight, they've covered in 5, I think you're going to get some good value on the Knicks, especially if you want to tease it up. You get them at +8.5. I do not see them losing by at least 9 points against a Philly team that's really shorthanded and also has to be pretty tired because they just don't have much
100%. And I think, sometimes tired legs, as we know, bring out offense. And I think a pretty big zag here is actually the over on this one, which is pretty low right now. It stands at about 210.5, I believe, on this one. And so I feel really, like that's not very many points, obviously. But that being said, obviously Philly is what they are at home. They are really good on D at home this year, only giving up 102. The Knicks are also really good on offense on the road, scoring about 111. That's good for third in the league on the road. And Philly's not, they're in the top 10 in home defense, but normally we see them shutting teams down, better than anybody. Look, defense in the league is obviously up a bit this year in terms of some points and things of that nature, as it's, with some of the rule changes. So now you're seeing teams giving up 91, 95, 97 points per game at home, which is not what you saw last year. So Philly's 102 points per game at home, still really good, just not in the, the very top of the league anymore. And I do think, obviously, without Matisse Thybulle, Danny Green, another big defensive player who's questionable tonight. And then Tobias Harris is obviously one of their most versatile guys at this point, with Ben Simmons out, in terms of size and ability to cover guys with, who might want to come down low a bit. So I think with what we see here, zagging towards that over, zagging towards those Knicks, who have incredible numbers on the road and in those really short rest or no rest situations, which is probably because Tibbs plays the crap out of his guys, runs them into the ground anyway. They're kind of used to playing tired at this point, which can be a good thing during the regular season. season for situations like this. So, I mean, in terms of what both teams do well, I mean, this year it's very odd, but the Knicks are a 3-point shooting team, right? They're in the top 5 in pretty much every 3-point category that matters, including, their percentage and how many they're making a game. And, the 76ers, they are pretty good on defense, specifically at 3. I mean, they're against the 3, they're in the in the top 5 in terms of how many they allow a game. So it's not like it's that easy for them to get off, but they don't have the wing defense tonight, as we mentioned, with 3 key players not playing, and obviously Ben Simmons still nowhere to be found. You're going to be asking guys like Korkmaz and company to stop the likes of RJ Barrett, who has turned another corner, in my opinion, now averaging about 19 a game. He's a legit 3-point shooter that wasn't, some sort of weird phenomenon last year. But now the Knicks have more ways to score against you. And Kemba didn't play last night in that loss to the Cavs, where I definitely think they could have used him, as Rubio just went off for career highs all over the place against them. Not that he would have been necessarily a Rubio stopper, but being able to put a little bit more pressure on the ball. Derrick Rose, obviously not the exact same type of athlete that he was. So Kemba being in that lineup is huge for them. And him being on that rest, he's not going to be at a rest disadvantage, right? He didn't play last night. So I'm going to go ahead and tease this one and feel pretty good about getting the Knicks at about 9 points right now, maybe 8.5, 9, depending where you find it. And then taking that total down to about 206, 205, or 207, 206, depending where you see it, and get the Knicks and the over there. Not a bad bet when there's not much wing defense for Philly tonight.
Yeah, and you look at how the Sixers are getting their points at home, or how Embiid specifically, he's shooting awful at home, 38% from the field, 27% from deep, but he's averaging the exact same amount of points because he's getting 10 free throw attempts per game. So that obviously spells good things for the over. You mentioned the Knicks struggles defending the 3-point line, and the Sixers have been very efficient from that department. They will still have Seth Curry out there tonight, even if they don't have their best defenders. And Seth Curry is a liability on the other end of the floor. So, yeah, I think you can trust both teams to score, and especially down the stretch where the Knicks are giving up the second most fourth quarter points per game, right? So, yeah, live betting the over, as we often look at, definitely intriguing. And just betting the over before the game, because the Sixers giving up the 6th most paint points, the Knicks giving up the worst 3-point percentage. There's just a lot of things that each team can do well. And as mentioned, they're among the top in the league in offensive rating, which kind of makes up for that slow pace that they like.
It's funny to look at who's, the top offensive rated team keeps kind of fluctuating a bit, but Philly's in there right now. And I think, look, there's going to be some regression to the mean for both of these teams. Specifically, the Knicks will get better at defense, in my opinion. I don't know that they'll shoot the 3 at the clip that they are for the whole season, but right now they are a team who is built around, a couple guys, a couple ball handlers, specifically Kemba, and then, at times Fournier and Randall having the ball in the wings or the high post for them. There's a lot more, like I said, there's a lot more to this offense than there was last year. And I think the days of the 99, 97, Philly Knicks matchups of the last couple of seasons isn't necessarily going to be the case this year. So, without specifically on the side of Philly, what they can bring against the Knicks, as you mentioned, 3-point shooting, the Knicks are awful at defending it. But also the Knicks have had trouble with guys like Evan Mobley, some guys who can take the ball from about 15 feet out and then get to the basket when they want, as Mobley had another career night against the Knicks last night, like Rubio. But that just does give me a good feeling about the over there. And I do think the Knicks will be able to score with Philly tonight. So we're pretty aligned there, Nate. That is all the time that we have for today. Make sure to check out the other videos we have for you. Always got those player prop videos, as well as the Bulls taking on the Brooklyn Nets, also on the second leg of that back-to-back. And until we see you next, happy betting.